I will be turning on the camera in just a moment. Greetings, everyone. Coin Stamp 180 here, otherwise known as Swirling Vortex 09 on YouTube. And welcome back to another episode of Elden Ring Reforged. Last time, we had a late at night, a very late at night, quiet stream. Today, there are two things I want to show off. One of those is, of course, before... Let's see. One of those is before the stream. Or not before the stream, but something I've been working on. And the other is a general update on progress. I'll go ahead and get us loaded up into the game in the meantime. Also, before I forget, welcome Raspy. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Hope you enjoy your stay. And welcome to anyone else at the top of the hour who, in fact, only just now showed up. Nice hot coffee. So, we are here on this screen. Let me see if I can zoom it in for you. Is it Alt? No, it would have to be like Control or Shift. I can do this manually. That part doesn't really matter. That should be a decent enough viewing resolution on the screen. So I've compiled. I'm still in the process of compiling a table for Elden Ring Reforged. The community, well, a few people in that community, let me be more specific. A few of those people, plus myself, are gonna start lobbying if I can get my lever arm, or my boom arm, to work properly. Okay, so I've put together a nice little Google Sheets, and hang on just a moment. Sorry for the interruption once again. Um, so the archetype explanation probably isn't super important because this book is going to get archived. The real crowning jewel that I've been working so hard on is the armor set table. Most of the effects are most armor sets in Elden Ring don't have effects. The ones that do are kind of rare. Things like, let me find one that's native, Albrecht's set. Albrecht's set, based off of Mad Tongue Albrecht. The NPC invader of the same name. He has a set. Has 4 pieces, including trousers. Only 3 of the pieces actually do anything. And as you can see, there's a 15% boost to aberrant sorceries. That would be Briars of Sin and Briars of Punishment. Those are the only 2 aberrant sorceries out there. It's a pretty strong boost. Something as mild as the Albinauric set only has the Albinauric mask, which contributes to the set. This is also kind of a work in progress, as tier and archetype are not really something that are going to be used for categorizing effects. But I did want to show off that I have been working on something in relation to Elden Ring Reforged, and it's mostly a sorting table. Hopefully new sets will get added to this, and it'll be a lot easier to sort of have a resource for which things have a set and which things don't. Hopefully Kernifer will get some use out of this as sets are being suggested. That's pretty much about it. We're gonna return back to the game now. The second thing I wanted to mention before we began is that I went and did some grinding. There's also a gesture I need to show, as well as its location, but we could do that after spell purchases. I think I ground up something to the tune of 100,000 runes Tuesday.
Greetings.
Oh, yeah, I probably should have converted our hard runes before beginning this. Oh, please don't, bot, please behave. Okay, that happened at 156. And it doesn't look like the chat's scrolling either. I'm gonna refresh this. I'm also going to do myself the favor and check, just check Twitch. You just never know. Okay. That's what I thought. I'm paranoid about these things. I want to make sure I see what you guys are saying. If anything at all. Alright, let's just get it to where it's gonna rest and leave it be. My apologies if the sound is particularly wacky. I'm trying to get the position of the mic arm to sort of cooperate. Also, in other news, I may or may not be getting a folding bed, which is or I should say, it's not quite a futon. I forgot the exact name, but I do know that the bed will look like a couch, and I can actually put the webcam back to where it's supposed to be. I just have to make sure the bet that I've placed on the bed, or the bid I've placed on it, comes out okay. And before anyone gets their, britches in a twist, I'm talking about, sites that use bids in order to, obtain a bidder for a piece of furniture or something like that. It's not casino, it's not gambling, it's none of that. The person who bids and has the highest bid wins. It's kind of like a digital auction. Probably won't need all of these. Anything that remains can be put toward leveling. And then we'll kind of make our way. First, we want to head down so that we can, or head south. I should say that. We should head south so that we get all these missing locations. There are a bunch. And then after that, we can start making our way back north and hopefully make it to our target location. It'll probably take at least another episode to fully get there, but once we do, it'll be fantastic. How is everyone doing today? Hopefully everybody is doing all right. I'm sitting in with some coffee that hasn't been properly mixed. Yuck.
Greetings.
And we're going to be buying everything. I think I just transposed a conversation topic. Yeah, our goal is to get the black knife print. It goes a long way towards completing quest lines. However, it might take at least another episode. Liurnia is a big place, and there's no guarantee that I won't have problems trying to get there. Today was a very draining day. Won't be staying for that long. This week you started at uni? Ton of people, a ton of classes and stuff? Ooh. Sounds exciting. Getting to go to some big place and meet people you've never met before. But yeah, I could see why that would be draining, along with the internship. So you had both occur on the same day, is that correct? And while we're conducting that, whenever I'm not at uni, you're at work? Busy, busy, busy. I can't blame you. Yeah, but do you enjoy being that busy, even if it is exhausting? Because if you're not at least making something good out of it, then that's a problem, right? We got a bevy of new spells. A lot of them. While I wait for the reply to that. We don't really have a good reason to use our carrion or... trying to see if this works out. Hard to say. It's only been 2 to 3 days. Gotcha. That makes sense. Works good? Good. Works great. I should make sure I get that correct. Works great. That's good. Just make sure to take time for yourself. Not that you don't know to do that, but I've been on the receiving end of not taking enough time for myself, and I don't work yet. It's very easy to just get overwhelmed with coursework and social obligations and personal life at home, and then to add work on top of that. Yeah, just be careful. It's about all I can ask. Fortunately, I had no anxiety talking to a lot of people, including girls. Yeah, uni is... if people don't find love in high school, generally speaking, you're gonna find someone at university. Now, whether they're a good fit or not, that's a slightly different story. I hear I've watched a lot of marriages crumble after a year and a half because there was no courtship involved. You didn't really get to know the person. You didn't, talk about serious subjects. Like, it was all physical affection until it was time for the affection to fade and the compassion and love of the mind to begin. I've watched that happen and unfold over and over again. I've had people tell it to me, and I've had it happen in front of me. love is not an easy thing to cultivate, and people can't just expect that to work with no maintenance of the mind. Physical affection is fleeting, temporary. Truly loving someone for who they are and being able to commit to a relationship of that nature is a difficult thing indeed. So our bevy of new spells include Darkness, which we will be preparing as the last spell, as Darkness actually causes... There's an in-combat use for it. Let's read, so we sort of find the animated background really distracting. I just don't have a good placeholder right now, so I am using something out of one of my other screens, but I will figure out something. And I suppose that's the other thing on this specific scene. I know. I figured someone would spot that eventually. It is a moving background. You're right. I do intend on getting art done for the stream. I just need to find someone willing to commit to the art style I like. I have problems finding artists for stream stuff, and it's not because I don't know where to look. I know there's Fiverr, I know there's DeviantArt, I know you can DM people on Twitter. I know the places to look, and I have looked. I am a person who is very picky about art style, and for Twitch, it's stylized chibi anime things are extremely popular. Very popular. Whether it be emotes, banners, you name it. The name of the game is fun, festive, bright, colorful. This stream is not those things. And so chibi, anime, bright, cheery, colorful things don't fit. I'm sort of like with the emotes. The emotes are probably a good example of this. So I will post an emote here. You've seen them before, but this is just conversation for anyone else. There's sort of a hybrid between having something stylized and having something be almost three-dimensional and photorealistic. For banners, I don't have that much of a constriction on it. It's more about the presentation, but I want the presentation to look good. And not a lot of artists are currently on market for anything that isn't pixelated. Sorry, have to crash on the bed mat? No problem. Hope you enjoy your sleep. Now, if you're still going to be lying around in bed, that's fine. But if you are headed off to bed, like truly, then enjoy yourself. Have a good sleep. You're gonna need it for uni plus work. But to sort of carry on that conversation in the general sense, my intention is definitely to grab some art and pay good money for it. Your artists deserve to get paid. People, make sure you pay them. They're worth it. Oh, I did not... Wait, Darkness takes 2 slots? Whoa. That's new. Darkness did not take 2 slots before. Wow. I actually have to pick. Interesting. Hey Alex, your streams are great and entertaining, but they happen a bit late for you. It's 9:23 p.m. It's fine during the weekend, but not the rest of the week. Yeah, I've been bumping into, scheduling for multiple reasons now as it is. Hey Alex, good to see you. Glad you're here. Hope you enjoy your stay. To sort of continue where I left off, I suppose I'll just change this out for darkness then, and then memorize the other spells later. So, I do want to have nice looking channel art. It is something on my mind, and I'll probably include a splash screen along with it, but it's gonna take a while for me to find something that fits the stream's aesthetic and is in a style I like. I'm not the largest fan of pixelated stuff. I'm really not. And that's not this channel's style either. But finding photorealistic art, or at least somewhat realistic art, is difficult. Very difficult. I've looked. I think I've spent, I want to say, between 5 and 7 days, just kind of over a 1 month cycle. What is chasing us now? Because something most assuredly is. Looking for an artist who does things in a photorealistic style, but just not out there right now. And that's kind of where I'll stop, to keep from ambling on and on about the same thing, but I am looking. The backgrounds that I have are definitely not a permanent thing. I may even go so far as to redo the screens as well, with something that's similar, but, is not purchased through Stream Spell or something like that. Before I forget, these lovely things are... I want to say they're fire cannons, and they've got quite the driver on them. Yet these things are very, very dangerous. They will run you over. They will run you over. They will spew fire everywhere. And all in all, just not a good time. You kind of have to run in a circle and sort of keep your distance while dealing with these. And the way that you deal damage to these is by harming the driver in back. And you really only get that opportunity about every 2 attacks, if I'm being completely honest. I'll read that in 2 seconds. Okay. And the loot that they drop is always smoldering butterflies and fire blossoms. Fun fact, I did read a little bit of the Bloodborne lore, and it's freaking awesome. I know, right? The Bloodborne lore is based on interactions with the Eldritch gods. Cthulhu, or Azathoth, or some others. That's just that's the supposed basis for them. And Vidya does do a lot of explaining about the lore. His theory videos are some of the best. They're almost always well thought out. They include community feedback for things he missed. It's great stuff. I highly recommend it. Sometimes I'll even fall asleep. I'll even go to sleep with the playlist running because they're that well constructed. There's no, super jumpy energy everywhere. If you'll give me a moment, I'll be right back. I am back. Sorry about that. Stepmom had a vertigo episode, so I had to go help out with that. Thankfully, she's alright. It's just the usual vertigo, but you never know. With vertigo, people can pass out really easily. And our house is not dog or child friendly, so there's a chance that my stepmom could totally fall on the corner of the table and we'd end up having to take her to the hospital. Because I've bonked my head on a table. There's a scar on the back of my head. Granted, I was, I think, 2, maybe not even that old when it happened, but you never know when you're gonna bonk your head on something and get a nice nasty stitch scar for it. So I just made sure everything was alright. That's the important part. Family first. Family is important. Now, of course, I always caveat this with it's the family you choose, but you know, I do choose my biological and non-biological family. I chose my stepmom. It's not like she's not forced into being in a familial relationship with me. I can easily sort of keep her equidistant at arm's length if I wanted to. But I'm not doing that. Let's see. Yeah, Bloodborne lore is great. It's... I have, It's hard to find things to complain about with Bloodborne lore, other than you really kind of need the complete game to get the experience. If you don't have DLC, you're kind of missing out. Indeed, my family was and always is by my side. Yeah, there's a phrase in the Bible that I take to heart, and it's the one that people misquote all the time. I don't remember the verse. I could probably look it up if I so chose. But that verse is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the wound, which really states that family is what you choose. It's the people you make a promise to. Sometimes that those are people of blood, but not always. Family is what you choose. I would say that my sibling has a lot of friends that they would also consider family, especially in tight scenarios. Family's a much more extensive thing than DNA. At least in my opinion. But that is a verse that is near and dear to my heart, especially after I looked into it. Because I, like so many other people, misquote it. Blood is indeed thicker than water, but only in the physical sense. That's probably enough of that, though. I don't want to harp too much on my favorite parts of my religion for all the kids and is a reason I believe so, more or less the big story behind it. I suppose a good follow-up question would be, do you guys have folks that you cherish? Specifically people that you aren't born to, or people you're not born with. The people you cherish and would consider family. I really don't have anything like that at the moment. I used to, at one point, but the thing about friends is that you can drift apart very easily. All it takes is exigent circumstances. Things like, I have a wife and kids now, or I've got a husband and multiple children now, or, you know, my work is really demanding, or I have to move away from the country or the state. One of those things. And the next thing you know, communications become harder to come by until eventually you're like, I'm sure they're doing fine. The last thing they need is for me to be chatting up a storm with them, bothering them, or making life more difficult because I'm not aware of when they're working or when they're not. Or I'm not aware of the precise circumstances they're involved with. If people have someone like that, or have had someone like that in their life, they'll understand that they'll understand why friendships are something that have to be taken seriously, or relationships of any kind, really, but especially if you intend to like involve that person in your life, you should take some serious time to cultivate that relationship, because it can and will fade. Even familial bonds, which a lot of people say are the strongest things on earth. And I'd be inclined to agree with you, as long as we know what family is. That we're defining that very carefully. Even those bonds can weaken, shatter, or break. Relationships are what you put into them, and unlike equations or machinery, it's a two-person or a multi-person input. You can't expect to get something out of it all by yourself. I know, I'm ambling about relationships instead of commenting on Elden Ring Reforged like I'm supposed to. Just for those who maybe have come in, I'll sort of remind people what our plan is. My intention today is to explore this southern tip of the eastern cliffside, and then make our way over to this marked location today. That contains a not a plot relevant item, but a quest relevant item. If you guys will recall Roger the Spellblade, he has he was mentioning various statements about the Knight of the Black Knives. Or, Fia mentioned something about Black Knife Prints and gave us that map for that location. That's more or less what we're doing today. Is just working our way toward that quest, and we're going to be in Liurnia for many, many levels to come. We're level 64 now. When we entered Liurnia, we were around 62 or 3. We're probably going to be over level 100 by the time we even consider going somewhere else beyond the confines of one of the platforms or one of the lifts. And you might be asking yourselves, what lifts are we talking about? I'll read that statement in just a second. You see this marbled structure here, topologically on the map? That is the Dectus lift. We need 2 halves of a medallion to cross this lift. There are other ways to get into Altus Plateau, but in short, we are going to have to go to Caelid to get one of the 2 halves, and we're probably going to have to go somewhere over here to get the other half. The other one is the Rolled lift, I think, and that requires 2 medallion halves, where one I think is found in Lanedell, and the other I think is found in Volcano Manor. In Mount Gelmir, that specific location. All of this is like early to mid game. And I would begin to describe Altus Plateau and Mount Gelmir as sort of approaching late game, but not quite being there yet. Alright, let me read this message before continuing. Just today, I revisited a clip from Breaking Bad where 2 twins played with each other, and at one point, they got mad at each other, and one of them told their grandpa that he wants his brother to be dead, and grandpa tried to drown the other twin in a bucket of water till the one that said he wants his twin to die punched his grandpa in the face. After that, he let the other twin get air and told them family is everything. Yeah, like, I don't want to say family isn't important, but boy, is that not a... Oh, boy, is that not a compelling clip that, you know, sometimes family isn't everything. I'd still call Grandpa family. At least before he tried to drown someone. I maybe wouldn't call them family after that, but that is a personal decision on my part. Actually, yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that showcases both what you're trying to say and what I'm trying to say in a single sitting. That if the forged bonds and the promises you make to each other as family members, it is actually true, and it's not coming from a place of being mentally disturbed, it's not coming from a place of derangement or, you know, ulterior motives, then it's fine. You know, family is everything. But family is only everything as long as it doesn't seek to unmake you in the process. And then after that, you have to ask, were they really ever family to begin with? He tried to prove a point, and he was a don for the cartel. Yeah, I find that cartels and other weird paramilitary criminal organizations like that have a strange sense of what family is. You can tell that he doesn't have the best grandparenting practices. Agreed. Very agreed. I'm certainly glad that is not the case. Let's see. Yeah, we might as well grab this while we're here. I believe lightning will serve us best with these. Or it would if I weren't making constant errors. Or, you know, if the lightning actually hits something. Awesome. Great. It's a strange point to try to make, huh? I find that very alien. I think I would probably run away from home if I had a grandpa like that. Then again, Breaking Bad is kind of known for making points that other people wouldn't make normally sometimes. How is it that one can shoot lightning and hit nothing all at the same time? This spell was kind of horrific, even in vanilla, but with a faster cast time, you'd think you'd hit something. Yeah, and the attacks are ceaseless as well for these things. The colossal weapons that these golem halberds, these halberd golems are known for, are kind of referred to as pacifiers, because they kind of slam them into the ground so much. They're like toddlers. They're practically throwing a temper tantrum. I could see the analogy if I'm being completely honest. Alright, let's try this a third time. With 100% less failure. This spell sucks. This spell is awful. I don't know why it does not work on large targets. You'd think it would actually work on large targets. I'll just use a different spell. That's fine. Probably, Litany of Proper Death. Or, you know, all of my spells kind of suck. Really, I should have packed Black Flame for where I was going. And these things eat up your resources too if you let them. They're, very, very difficult enemies if you're not prepared for them. Believe it or not, outside of, like, magic builds, most of the time people avoid these. Please, stumble off the cliff. Thank goodness. Thankfully, that one does not respawn. And look, we got a whole 50,000 runes for our effort. That's like 2 level ups, at least. Family can sure mean a whole lot. But family can also mean jack diddly squat at the same time. And if I weren't to put that in biblical terms or anything of that sort, I would just simply say, you know, family is who you choose. Family are the deep sacrosanct bonds you make with another person that are supposed to actually mean a lot. If you tell a person, if one man tells another that he loves him very much, like in like a fraternal way, a brotherly way, or maybe even like a fatherly way, depending on the exact relationship. But if you tell someone you love them, you're supposed to mean it, right? It would be a shame if those things were just window dressing. It would feel very awful to the person who, you know, is supposed to be the recipient of all that love. And the same is true whether we're talking about a mother and her son, or a father and his daughter, or 2 brothers, or cousins, or whatever have you. People should generally mean the things they say. Fair enough. But apart from family I have and Rasby, you don't really have other people you have a bond with. That's fair. That's also fair. That bonds are not an easy thing to form. They take time, and it's hard to be genuine with people once you start getting into disagreements and stuff. It really can be. Oh, I wasn't expecting them to go mad. I guess they did. Yeah, those giant... We saw one of those giant, arcane head things earlier, and it was guarding something. I wonder what this rune bear is guarding that's, particularly worthwhile. Considering we're in a pond with gold fireflies and not much else. I had a group of people I was close with in high school, but I guess we changed. That's usually how it is. I had a man I was sort of close with, although not in the... This would have been in like 20 or 2009 or 8, something like that. I mean, I had male and female friends I was close with, but it was more of a mutual respect for one another, and not so much, hey, we hung out after school and did things. Because this man and I did not do that. The one I'm talking about. Like, I did hang out with him sometimes, but it wasn't a daily occurrence. And he had this nasty tobacco chewing habit that made it kind of difficult to be around. For you see, even back then, I would have been 17, and that's about when the sensitive nose started to kick up. Even then, my nose was sensitive to tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, all of that stuff. If people smoke that around me, I get a big headache. Big headache. I have to take something for it, or find something else to do. Oh, that's brutal. Yep, that's why. These things are usually not worth the trouble. But I have to come back here now for 55,000 runes. Awesome. I also have a person you sometimes hang out with, but I can't really say you consider him a friend. A very good friend of his when he was in 5th grade, and he really wasn't a loyal friend. Exactly. Bonds are very difficult things to cultivate. They really are. This man and I that I was talking about, he went on to work at a termite business, like a termite maintenance business. People who ward the termites out of houses and stuff. And then he eventually went on to have his own automotive business, find a woman, marry her, and have child. He did all of that. And by that point, I kind of already phased out of his life. It's not that we had nothing to share, but we really didn't have a whole bunch in common to begin with. Not that he was a bad person, just we didn't have that much in common, and whenever he would do the whole tobacco chewing nonsense, I couldn't be around him then. And if I did, I was very uncomfortable. Then again, these were high school boys that really weren't supposed to be doing the alcohol, not the alcohol, but the tobacco chewing in the first place. So I already didn't feel great in those circles. I eventually learned to get over it, but still made me uncomfortable in the meantime, until we were both sort of adults and he kind of stopped doing that. He might still chew tobacco to this day, but he doesn't really do the other stuff anymore. He doesn't hang around with those groups of people. Can't. Has a daughter. Has to kind of keep himself well behaved. Not that that stops anyone, but sometimes it does. Sometimes people have that much respect for themselves and their families that they don't get them hooked on substances, or, don't smoke around them and watch the byproducts enter their lungs. Sometimes people have that level of respect. Sometimes they don't. But that's just how human interactions are. These things are very difficult to take down, by the way. They sport a high number of resistances, and they're almost always, you know, running these showers of arcane projectiles that make them difficult to deal with. Big streamer from Norway said in his country chewing tobacco is a pretty big phenomenon. They call it snoozing. I suppose I could... That's an interesting name for it. Maybe the tobacco puts people to sleep. I don't know. Tobacco gives me a downright headache. But then again, I've already said that. I can get pretty rambly about things I'm actually passionate about. I know it doesn't look like it. It looks like I'm just ambling on and on, but... when people, you know, smoke and drink or engage in other recreational drugs without like a... And I know, it sort of runs counterintuitive to my own philosophy of live and leave well enough alone. Excuse me. But that's just the sort of thing that bothers me, because life is all about its own experiences. There's nothing else quite like living, seeking thrills, and, you know, be like going on an adventure. Like walking through a park, even though you might have done it 100 times before, can still be an adventure. Because there will always be something new to find in the grass, or maybe there will be a sunset that you've never seen before, or maybe you'll actually find someone worth talking to. Like, all of those small, subtle things are part of the adventuring experience, and you can't go on adventures without understanding that there's personal risk in doing so. Sometimes you're going to get people, you're going to find someone, maybe on that same day that you find a romantic interest that you really like, you'll also find someone who may be antisocial and might not just like you because you breathe. Or, you know, in that blade of grass, or in that, not the blades of grass, but maybe in a forest, you brush up against poison ivy, and you get a rash for like a week. You get to enjoy the sights and the smells, but, you know, there's always dangers lurking in the shadows. Like that's the risk you take when you go on lifetime of adventures, or even an adventure in a single sitting. Never mind, a chewing tobacco is called snuff, so they may call the use of it snuffing or something. Ah, that'll do it. Yeah, chewing tobacco is usually called snuff over here as well. I just call it chewing tobacco because I'm old-fashioned like that. Yeah, the stuff stinks, and to make matters worse, chewing tobacco is one of those things that when you spit it out, you gotta put it in a bottle, and all that spit and saliva goes in there. It's very gross. I was in high school, and there were boys who carried around bottles with dark brownly colored liquids in them. You could tell those were the young men who would probably die of cancer or lose their jaw, or you just knew that they used chewing tobacco. It was gross. Needless to say, life is an adventure, and it's worth experiencing on its own. Maybe other people don't think so, but that's just because of their own problems in life. Wasn't smoking cooler than snuff? Schools already had a ban on it. You couldn't really hide it. You can more easily hide the, chewing tobacco. Plus, there were straight up... There are gas stations that sell the stuff. So oftentimes, the men and boys at my high school would just take a local 5-minute walk over to the gas station, and it's right there. Back when the laws were kind of lax and loose on this stuff. Now you have to be 18 to get it, but that didn't stop people from faking ID or, you know, cutting deals with the attendants at the gas station. Didn't stop them. Did I experiment? Oh, no, absolutely not. I am a neurodivergent person. I am not someone who mixes well with that stuff. Even alcohol. Alcohol is the sort of thing that puts me to sleep. There's nothing good for me in that substance. It might be nice to cook with, it might have a fragrant smell, but it can get to be... What the hell, Rune Bear? I'll respond to that in a second. Good lord. Winnie the Pooh is buffed in this game? I know, Winnie the Pooh, more like Winnie the Ripper. Good lord. Yeah, no. I was warned about the dangers of tobacco and alcohol pretty early on, and I'm kind of old school when it comes to marijuana. I don't think it's a gateway drug or anything. I have too much scientific knowledge for that, but I certainly don't like the plant. And I wish people would just accept that the safer uses of that plant are tied to tablets and capsules. Like, concentrating the substances that they want into a single medicine for use is far safer than the tars and oils and resins that'll accumulate in your lungs when you smoke them, or, you know, accumulate in your blood serum when you eat enough, or something else like that. Then again, recreational drugs have existed as long as mankind has, and I know that to fight against them is a losing battle. People are going to take the lifetime adventures I just talked about and incorporate those drugs as being part of it. I know it. That's the best thing to do, is to try to destigmatize the use of the drug, but also clearly outline where it is and isn't okay to use them. Because if people think that marijuana doesn't have side effects, I've got a couple of broken families to show you that might prove otherwise. When we say broken, what I mean is marijuana is... like, cannabinoids are just a drug class unlike any other. They hit all of the notes a drug would like to hit. And by notes, I mean they affect all the neuroreceptors that you would want them to. Makes people very relaxed, right? That's useful. That's useful in a number of applications, both good and bad. That's a start. Then, if you use it long term and you don't bother managing the drug properly, like anything else, it can be addictive. It's not that marijuana is addictive in small doses or anything. Of course not. The science says that weight is tied to the dose, and the quantity is tied to the dose. You would have to have a lot in order to truly become an addict, but people can. If you like being relaxed, and being relaxed is a good feeling, make no mistake, you get endorphins and dopamine from it, people will naturally seek those things out, and do almost anything to get it. Addiction is a routine of behaviors by which inhibition is turned off. And that can happen with anything, marijuana included. But I've seen marijuana take the nicest people and turn them completely paranoid. Because that is a well-known and documented side effect of smoking the stuff, is that it makes them paranoid. And all you really have to do is be smoking it for a long time. You don't even need a high therapeutic dose. You just need a long enough period of smoking it, and that'll happen to you. I have an uncle who struggles with that. I have a whole subsection of my own family that smokes it uninhibited, and it shows. It really does. I hate these rune bears. I don't know why I'm attempting to fight one. I know how difficult these things are. If you charge again, thank you. I would say this is probably one of those few rune bears I would say is really generally not worth your time, but I've sunk too many resources into this. My honor demands that we kill the rune bear, or at least make serious attempts at it. Thankfully, these are large enemies that you can sort of kind of hug their legs. You can hug their legs, and most of the time it's fine. See how most of these attacks whiff? It was nice to talk to you. Gotta watch an episode of Outlander with your mom. I will come back to if you'll still be live. Very, very well, Alex. Go enjoy Outlander. I do hear it is a good show. And I will see you later. Well, this is probably going to be a pretty boring segment, but I'm fearful of running ads now. One of the things that I've sort of been reading about in regards to ads is that, you know, people really don't like them, and I know that seems like a common, foregone conclusion. Twitch is sort of killing its own platform, and I really don't understand why it's doing this, other than Twitch can no longer, or Amazon can no longer take the L's on broadcasting that it does in some way, and so all of these decisions are an attempt to eke out what little profit they can from it. And good luck with Winnie the Ripper. Thanks. Hopefully I won't need it. I am going to stop popping rune arcs, though. Because, you know, rune arcs are kind of an expensive commodity. There we go. That's a much better damage output. Oh. I do hate when he does the headbutts. Thank the Lord. So what you just watched me do is something called a grapple escape. Grapple escapes are performed by either repeatedly sliding A and B together, or by repeatedly sliding left and right trigger together. Either set of inputs works. Just don't do them both at the same time, because that's not going to help you. And grabs that would kill you may not actually do so. Like that grab from the rune bear just now probably would have killed me if I didn't try to use a grapple escape on it. Almost, big guy. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you never. I hope he doesn't respawn. Yeah, Rune Bear, that is a pretty prime example of a Rune Bear just generally not being very worth it. As I was saying earlier, I'm sort of paranoid running ads now. On one hand, nobody likes pre-roll. On the other hand, for me to eliminate pre-roll consistently, there has to be an ad every half hour. And, you know, if you stream for long hours, it can generally be worth it to run ads, knowing that you're going to get pre-roll protection. On one hand, pre-rolls are better for series loyals, or, you know, your regulars, because they get the pre-roll and then they don't get anything else. But for new and up-and-coming, like, viewers, you don't want that. That's bad. They're both bad. Both are a very bad experience. I'm really contemplating moving platforms because I know just how bad it's become. Oh god, no. I should not have ambled too close. Rune Bear. Where's that, vampire skit from Machinima when you need one? Or Manslayer. I need a gif of that, or an animation of that on screen. I need one of those. Yes, I do watch the dirty funnies, the hoo-ha-has, but I don't talk about them much. It's supposed to be child-friendly. I'm not gonna suddenly, Okay, it's child-friendly from, like, the graphic perspective. It's not child-friendly from the things we talk about. Because we talk about deep subjects like philosophy or literature or religion or politics. We talk about all of that in here, in these hallowed halls. And, I mean, those are just very dangerous words right now. It's hard to talk about those things. Because you have people that want nothing to do with the subject. So if you've got kids and you don't want you don't want them to be influenced, not that I am actively influencing them. Please understand. That's not at all the intention, but everything you say is an influence on someone else. Humans are naturally malleable creatures, and any attempt to deny that is to say that, you know, you can't be manipulated, and that is quite the fallacious thing. It really is. All we were doing is grabbing that rest site, by the way. That way we have an easy time getting to the underground. We're not ready for that location yet. It's tied to a lot more later game underground content. But if you don't want the possibility of, you know, your loved ones being influenced by the things I say, then don't come here. I don't want to be the source of family disputes or unhappiness. That's not my intention, but if that is what I'm doing, I would rather people just not be here. I do this for a hobby. I would love to get paid for it, but it's not likely that that's happening. The ad revenue that I get is a pitiable amount. It really is. But if you don't mind wading into serious waters, I think you're going to have a fun time in here. A thought-provoking time in here more than anything else. That's what I aim to do. I'm not a Jacksepticeye. I'm not a Markiplier. I'm not Happy Hob, or I'm not any of these other content creators that are out there. I'm not the only person who talks about these things, mind you, but I am the only one, or not the only one, but, you know, I'm part of a small handful that does actually engage the subject rather than making a meme out of it, or, you know, I'm clearly trying to be careful for the cameras. I am trying to be careful for the cameras. I'll be glad to admit that, but not at the expense of the truth. Not at the expense of perspective. This is a hobby. I would love to get paid for it, but the truth of the matter is that that's not the kind of thing that gets you paid at all. Being funny gets you paid. Being witty, being creative, those things get you paid. Being thought-provoking and, you know, mentioning things that people might disagree with is not something that gets you paid, ever. And I'm fine with that. I'm not going to shield people from my opinions. One, because I'll never grow as a person, and two, that's not the kind of space we should be cultivating. That's like a big philosophy no-no. You don't stifle free speech. You do have to make sure you're being nice about it. There's being overly correct, and then there's just actually being a decent human being. You do have to find the difference between the two. But you can do both. You can strive for both, with a preference for the truth. Because the world sorely needs it right now, and what is truth but the facts themselves, and, you know, the common sense interpretations of those facts as well. You don't sit and say, the sky is actually, you know, white. It's actually white because there's a rainbow in it. No, you would say the sky is clear. That the sky is based on the colors being reflected off of the water droplets. Or you could say it's blue, or orange, or something else of that effect. You know, those things are at least based on perspective or the scientific truth. Saying that the sky is white is, well, and white because that's a facsimile of the scientific truth, that's not okay. That is the type of thing that has to be corrected through discourse and debate. And showing people facts that are irrefutable, well, as irrefutable as you can. Science never really refutes anything. It just says this is or this isn't, but You can come pretty close, depending on the exact topic. Now, to return to the actual game for a minute, we've made it to the Carrion Study Hall. The Carrion Study Hall is, it is the annexed point at which you can access the Liurnian Divine Tower. However, to do this, there's a very, very special trick. I'm going to go outside and demonstrate what that trick is. Notice that right now, it looks as though, you know, a simple short trip up will take us to where we need to go. And you might be right. However, the Carrion Royal Tower hides quite a few extra secrets. Or, I'm sorry, the Divine Tower does hide quite a few secrets. And the Carrion Study Hall is an accessory to those secrets. Now, what we're going to do is there's a very special boss that's here. It is the most hated boss. I mean, one of the most hated bosses. I think Melania is right up there in terms of bosses. Also, let me actually show something off. I think if you equip a rapier and then rest, you might be able to craft the corresponding... Okay. No, that's not how that works. I guess I really knew that in the back of my mind. I remember something to the tune of you could equip it and get recipes, but I think it's tied to specific books. So, first, let's get the obvious out of the way. There's a pedestal here. And the thing that causes this pedestal to activate is based on a quest item that you obtain from a lovely little someone that we'll get to talk about later. I want to really try and use as many of these runes as I can. And we don't have any rune fragments. That's awesome. This is gonna be fun. So it's easier to show rather than to tell. But there's a preceptor here. Her name is Miriam. And she has the spell Loretta's Loretta's Great Bow, I think is the name of the spell. It is a hard-hitting sorcery. A very hard-hitting sorcery. And you could practically belt it out from across the room. It's a bow sorcery. It makes sense. That being said, it is annoying. There's an explosion at the end of the launched projectile. It deals a great poise damage. The only downside is it's slow. And that would be bad enough if that's all that the Preceptor did. But the Preceptor also has access to Magic Downpour, which is not really a super damaging sorcery. It's a space generating tool. You use it and it's hard to get in without taking a whole bunch of damage if you're not blocking or doing something else. In addition, there will be ads that crop up throughout the fight. However, to make our time easier, what we're actually going to do, and I do apologize if that is heard on mic, my dad is outside putting together some new rails for the outdoor space near the pool in the backyard. That's what he's doing, and he's cutting up a lot of wood to make room for that. Well, like I said, it's easier to show rather than tell, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's kind of a gauntlet, so I'm really only going to be able to talk about it before the gauntlet starts. Afterwards, I'm not going to be able to do much of anything. You'll see what I mean, though. Like I said, much easier to show rather than tell. And with that, I will see you guys on the other side. Oh, and yeah, there are also these hand things that will also show up from time to time. They love hanging on ceilings. Some of them you can even kill in a cute and funny manner. Alright, like I said, I'll see you guys on the other side. I have a very special tactic that I'm going to demonstrate in order to show you guys how to properly, or a good manner in which to defeat the boss. Each time you go across specific points on this map, you'll get more of these phantoms you'll have to kill. It would be worse. It's worse if they're on the same floor as Miriam. Because then you have to dodge both the great bow and the sword stabs of the other guys. And sometimes there can even be BS like that. Where, like, the explosion clearly shouldn't hit you, but it does. Yeah, it's utter BS. It's awful. I hate it. Miriam, there's not a bone in my body I could give you to be nice to Miriam. Ever. I would literally rather spit on her grave than give her something nice. Or be nice. She is awful. Okay, that's all of them. I think Kernifer might have changed the exact number. You get like 5 sets of spawns up here in base Elden Ring. I believe you get 3 here. I could be wrong about that. Oh, and there are rats on the balcony, just in case that wasn't clear. Like, of course there'd be rats in the balcony. And of course you'd be making these super tight jumps, on narrow pathways, and risk killing yourself dealing with these dumb rats. Yeah, can you tell I'm not a fan of this fight yet? I think the premise for it is cool. A throwback to Crystal Sage, the Crystal Sage, boss appearance in Dark Souls 3. Awesome. Love that. Although I didn't like it in the library then either. However, I don't particularly care for this throwback to it now. Oh, I feel like it's... feel like it won't take long for me to get clipped on this balcony and then just completely get hit. And if you think you're safe up here, you're not. You really, really aren't. If Miriam were any higher up right now, I could not be up here without getting hit. And even then, look at how close some of these shots are coming. That should tell you about how powerful the Loretta's Great Bow spell is. And you might be asking yourself, and this is a good question to ask, who the hell is Loretta? And why should I care? Isn't she just some carrion royal schmuck that I'm not interested in? And you'd probably be right. But there's so much more to her story, and I think this introduction to her from Miriam is poor form. It's bad taste, you see. There's so many other better ways to be introduced to the subtle lore flavors that Loretta brings to the table. Now, we make the long, odious journey back down and try not to get hit by Loretta's Great Bow or Magic Downpour in the meantime. One thing I will say is that I believe this tower provides about 13k runes per round in which you do not kill Miriam. If you want easy farms, relatively easy farms, I recommend you, like, walk out of the place and reset it. If you don't want to lose 13k, because once that happens, once you kill Miriam, you're not going to get this again. There you are. Oh, and she'll sit there and spam this. You have to meet her, or it's not gonna work. Uh-huh. See, even these railings aren't safe. What we're gonna do now is, sort of see if we can trick Miriam. Might not be able to, but it's at least worth a shot. I have to be really careful with her. And she moved locations because the poison is still ticking down. Good to know. You know, if it weren't for the fight, the Carrion Royal Study is actually a pretty cool place. And I still like it. I love the visuals. It's a really fine showcase of Carrion architecture. When it's paired with magic, like I said, there's a certain subtlety to it later on that's ingenious. And I'll be glad to show it off when the quest gives us what we want in that regard. But until then, you know, you can at least admire it for being the study hall that it is. When Miriam gets up here, in addition to all her other BS, she'll start teleporting around. And she can do this mid-cast. She can do this and hold the cast. Look, she can hit all the way from over here. Look at this nonsense. You can't even take 5 steps without getting hit. We're just gonna keep you in that for as long as possible. And once you get a rhythm, you can actually, you know, stun her. Pretty consistently, I might add. And Bestial Sling is a great incantation to use. If you have the magic negation or magic fortification incantation, use that here as well. And that should help you. In our reward as the very magic downpour I was talking about. It's great on large enemies that can't really avoid hardly any of the bolts. It's kind of terrible on... it's kind of terrible as an actual damaging spell any other time. It's a good spacing tool in PvP. It's also a decent spacing tool in certain boss fights where the bosses will actually go out of their way to dodge magic downpour. You can use that to control space. But other than that, it's not really a spell that you would use a whole bunch. Additionally, Magic Downpour is considered to be in the Carrion family of sorceries, which means it's not boosted by traditional staves. It's instead boosted by something like the Carrion Glintstone Staff. That was the thing we got in here, actually. Staff embedded with a blue glintstone, one of 2 types of Carrion Staff, given to sorcerers that they might enact the role of knight. Enhances Carrion Sword sorceries. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We don't need to be here now. We got a cool 14k, And of course, you know what that means. It's time for a level up. And our level ups are such that we can probably... I think one or two of our stats are 18 at the moment. So as soon as we get the third one to 18, we're going to park our physical scores at that hallmark, except for strength and dex. Those can stay exactly where they are. But we'll park vigor, mind, and endurance at 18, and then go back to focusing on our mental scores. Our intelligence, faith, and arcane. Because those actually help us deal damage, and we don't want to fall too far behind. We just need enough physical durability and utility from our spells to make up the difference. Okay, we're actually going to replace these with some ones I intend to show off. I think I'll show off 2 incantations. Because Magic Downpour... We can cast Magic Downpour, but... And you can charge this spell. That was one thing I was forgetting earlier. Same with Magic Glintblade. You can also charge it, and it'll increase the delay. When we get ready to play a wizard next time, we will actually show off the Magic Glintblade, because the Magic Glintblade is a great dodge catching tool. Like, they'll still dodge the carrying the Magic Glintblade, but because of the delay on charge, they'll actually dodge the animation for charging the spell instead of the animation for the Glintblade itself. Meaning, the Glintblade is actually a pretty good the Magic Glintblade is a really good damage tool. You just have to know how to use it right. Trying to think if there's anything else that we need before I take a short break, and probably try to play an ad in the meantime. That way we get some protection from pre-roll. I can't think of anything. I suppose we'll kind of outline our plan when we get back. Let's see. What is our required level up? Yeah, we're gonna need all 5 of these. But Luke, Liurnia is a fascinating place, and it's I would recommend going here over Caelid, because although you can kind of do both, it's really recommended you at least step in here first to get some spells or, get some weapons, and then come back to Caelid with something that shreds through physical protections, and go from there. Because Caelid is an especially unforgiving place. We think that, rune bears with 6,000 HP are bad. Wait till you see the offensive throughput that the enemies in Caelid are going to use against us. You'll wish that we were in Liurnia then. And we'll probably have to level up our vigor some more, just so we can be in Caelid properly. Yeah, I'm gonna take a 10-minute break. I'll probably play an ad in the meantime. Hopefully everyone's alright with that. Use this time to kind of get up, take a stretch break, if you drink coffee avidly, get another cup, etc., etc., etc. And with that, I will be back shortly, and I will see you guys then. Take care. I'm sorry people had to hear that. I am back. That is not a way in which I wanted to come back, but it happened. So, like I said before, like what happened before intermission, and I hope you guys had a good one. We finished we finished in air quotes the Carrion study hall and got a rather interesting spell in exchange for defeating an annoying enemy. Now we continue on. Like I said, our plan is to go make sure we didn't miss any of this. None of it. And that's quite the tall order. Liurnia is an expansive place with many twists and turns. And not only many twists and turns, but with many dangers in tow as well. It's easy to get lost and become overwhelmed, leaving you with naught else to do but, figure out where the heck the threats are coming from and deal with them. All you can do. Anything else is... well, anything else is just difficult. So, Black Flame deals fire damage just like Fireball does, except there's a dot attached. This dot is HP. It deals a small percentage of HP-based damage over time. And it does stack on itself. Black Flame is probably not the best way I know of to stack it, but you can do that. You also have Surge O Flame, which... well, it's a fine enough spray. It's really cheap. That's mostly what it is. It's really cheap. It's easy to use. It doesn't stagger a whole bunch, but that's okay. Doesn't need to. At least it has some use. There is a fire spell that I will go over a little later when we get it that is not very useful, but that won't be for a while yet. Since I guess it's right at the top of the hour, maybe 6 minutes over, I want to go ahead and thank people for the support they've shown for today. Really appreciate it. I realize I'm not the... good lord. I'm not the good lord either. I realize I'm not the best entertainer or commentator out there, but I do appreciate any time spent in the channel. It means a lot. I'm always working on ways to try to improve the stream. The difficult one is actually knowing how to be an entertaining person while doing what I want to do. Like, how much of my guards do I let down so that we can actually have real fun conversations before it gets to be a problem. And what's professional. Like, I have to strike a balance on those things. Or else the entertaining turns into a legal problem. And entertaining, I suppose, is subjective, really. I would like to be entertaining to a broad group of people, as much as I can, but I realize that with the way that I commentate on things, that's not really something you can do easily. That is something that requires... I almost have to be a completely different person on camera. Be like, I don't know. Hey guys, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Let's look at the top 25 memes on stream, and everything's a meme. Everything. I don't like that. At all. At all. I'm not that person. And that's probably going to hamper my success, if I'm being completely honest. That's fine. Again, I do this for a hobby. It is nice to get paid. I would love to be able to do this full time. Any person would. But that's not in everyone's cards. It takes a specific kind of person to be on YouTube or Twitch and actually be entertaining. I am not that person. I'm not even close to that person. That person would have to have far, far fewer mental reservations about things to talk about. I have far too many of them. And my opinions are not really mainstream, let's call it. I'm not an inherently racist, misogynistic person or anything. Just that, you know, my opinion might not be the most common one out there. Like, my takes are weird. And that can be a problem for some folks. I understand it. I don't have... one of my things is I kind of don't have anything to lose with my own opinion, so I can really only, you know, comment on it so much. For it's like, oh, are you living through our struggle? No? Well, then why are you talking? You know, that's exactly what people say. I've had it flung in my face. I had a topic about motherhood when I was in when I was going to Augusta Technical College, and actually I think it was more specifically about abortion, if I recall correctly. And we already know how women feel when men talk on the subject. Like, have you birthed children? No. Well, then what right do you have? That's the kind of thing that is very, very hollow as far as a philosophical experience goes. Men are the other half of this planet. You can't just say, well, my experience trumps yours, or your words are irrelevant. That's the sort of thing that led to, I don't know, the Salem witch trials and about dozens of other things that women have rightfully take issue with. The only way we move forward is when all parties have an opinion that is worth discussing. Sometimes they're not, but that's human nature. You're never going to have everyone have opinions that actually contribute to a meaningful discussion. Sometimes people are scumbags. Sometimes people are misguided. Sometimes people are, you know, they have psychological worms in their brain. I don't know. Sometimes people are just vile creatures. So I do understand that. But shutting down 50%, possibly 50% of a room because you're the wrong sex is problematic. We also have trans people and non-binary people now that complicate that discussion a lot more. And complicate it not necessarily in a bad way, just, you know, it's complicated. Often the discussion sometimes leads to erasure, where groups of people feel like they're not being taken seriously. Because you have female at birth people who don't present female, and yet they get pregnant and rear children. What are you supposed to do? You say, oh, look at the abomination bearing children. No, of course not. That's a actually harmful opinion. It's the most honest opinion, but it is a harmful one. No, there have to be off-ramps for people. There have to be ways to gingerly have the discussion without excluding people. Because you're just going to have hot garbage takes like that one. Granted, having off-ramps doesn't stop people from jumping off the cliff instead, But you have to make the attempt. You can't just say, oh, well, they have to make their own off-ramp. No, not everyone knows to do that. Conversation's a two-way street, and the reason that things are being said in terms of the individual wanting to harbor the discussion is that you can't count on everyone to take that into account when discussing these topics. It's the bystander effect, where, everyone assumes everyone else is going to do something to help out a person in a tough situation, and then they don't, right? And then you have a crowd of 55 bystanders, of which 15 of them crank out their phones, and about another 10 scream for help, and don't bother to do anything else. Granted, screaming for help is at least, moderately better, but screaming for help only gets so far. The bystander effect applies to conversations as well, where everyone assumes everyone else is going to take the same necessary preparatory steps in order to have the conversation, and then they don't. Conversation becomes unsafe. People start hurling out slurs and insults instead of discussing the issue at hand, and then it becomes problematic. People attack others. It's a vicious cycle. Because humans are lazy creatures, and generally don't do that unless, there's something in it for them. Whether that be a social consequence, or a physical one, or a monetary one. Humans need some kind of motivation to do something, or they're not going to do it. Just straight up. That's not to be mean to human civilization. That's just how it's always worked. And yes, you can strive to no longer have things work that way, but you're always going to have some section of the human population be motivated only by their own personal gain, their own position in life, and not anything else. What do you do then? That is a pretty nice crowd cleaver. I actually like this spell. I hated this spell before. Surge O' Flame, pathetic in Elden Ring. Kurnifer has taken this and turned it into one of the better tools, if I'm being honest. Grant, is it as far-ranging as a fireball? No, but if you've got a ton of weak enemies that you need to cleave through, why not use it? It's actually... you could do that already, but you kind of had to do the pump technique with Surge O' Flame, or Fire Surge, as it is better known by. You had to do a very specific thing in order to make it actually worth your time to cast. Now you don't have to do that. Isn't that great? Now, why are we parking here, you might ask? Well, you remember how we had nighttime bosses? We're gonna have them again. Let's see. Could probably, use this. You don't have any way to store our runes, but we shouldn't need it now. We should be fine. The time you're going to wish for them is late game anyway. Or once you start hitting Altus Plateau, there'll be places to go that you'll be like, I wish I could have squared those runes away first. Also, make note of the Spirit Spring that's over here, because that is how we are going to get along to other areas, to the main portion of the cliff. It might even take us 3 episodes to get where we want to go, but we will get there. Late night is probably not where we want to be right now in terms of the time. Also, what does our inventory for crafting materials look like? Somber Stone 3. This is a 2 right now. We can actually upgrade this. That's what we're going to do. We've got the rest site all figured out, let's head back and change the time and make that upgrade. We'll thank ourselves later. Just making sure there's not anything else we need to deal with. One thing that I will say that we're currently working on with Elden Ring Reforged is we're currently kind of discussing the role of generator spells and like whether they should be Ash of War or weapon skills or not for catalysts. Because right now we currently have Bestial Sling, Catch Flame, and Honed Bolt for our 3 incantations, and the 3 on the sorcery side are Glintstone Pebble, Carrion Slicer, and Ambush Shard. And that's it. Those 6, like, they give us a memory slot when we equip them, and they don't deal that much damage. Well, we already have a ton of spells we have to cycle through, so people are like, hey, you know, why don't we take those spells out and make them Ash of Wars, right? Well, there kind of has to be room in the Ash of War slot for that to exist. It's a pretty big discussion. I'm not sure what Kernifer's thoughts on this are. And seeing as how I'm preoccupied with armor set suggestions,
Where have you been? I took you no matter out of your arms then.
I'm kind of preoccupied with making a different set of suggestions, but I do try to keep track of other conversations that are going on. The other thing is like spells, always spells. Spells are a big deal in Elden Ring. And there's a whole slew of spells that don't exist for sleep. You might be asking, well, what's sleep? It's a status that, you know, knocks enemies out for a while, renders them unconscious, and when they wake up, you'll either have riposted them for massive damage, or you will have cast a number of spells on them. And then in Elden Ring Reforged, some enemies become drowsy and their AI gets toned down for a while. It's very interesting. So there's that upgrade. What does a Carrion Staff plus 8 look like? Carrying Glintstone Staff plus 8. So I usually use the wiki when I'm not sure about scaling. Granted, the scaling is changed, but I gotta use something as a point of reference. I think most of them are either balanced around being an early game catalyst or being a late game catalyst. And the site is usually, the wiki is usually good at either depicting what base is or depicting what 25 like max is. It's not very good at the in between unless you look at individual weapon pages. Let's see, cannot be infused. That's a lie. They all can. Glint Blade sorceries by 15%. That may not be the case anymore. And at standard plus 8, sorcery scaling is somewhere between 136 and 229. So it should be about on par with what we have now. Should be. We're gonna find out. I might not even be able to get +6. We can. And the scaling is... Oh, actually, no, not yet. Not yet. The scaling is awful. Well, it's not awful, but it's less. And the reason it is less is because it actually boosts a specific subclass. One thing that I thought that this did for a while was boost Glint Blade sorceries. It does not do that. It only boosts, like, Carrion Slicer, Carrion Great Blade, Carrion Retaliation. It's more than stuff with strictly Carrion in the name. It's anything with the Carrion family of sorceries, but, like Magic Downpour. But it's very specific.
Greeting. Are you here for spirit?
I wish I could say I were here for spirit tuning. I unfortunately am not. How sad. Alright, now let's actually set this up properly. The boss that we'll be fighting is another Knight's Cavalry, and we kind of handle this the same way we did as the last one. It's just gonna have more health, more than anything. More health. It's gonna take longer for both the horse, for the boss and the horse to go down. It's a it's a moderately more difficult fight. Also, I guess while I'm here, we can actually take out the other nighttime boss that I'm aware of that we've discovered so far. And that boss would be another copy of the Bell-Bearing Hunter. In fact, we should probably do that after we fight this boss, because the way we handle both of them is the same anyway. Just, you know, you're just changing the setting. And I have a few particular nuances to talk about when it comes to that particular Bell-Bearing Hunter, because the fighting arena actually does make quite a bit of difference. Unlike before, where the Bell-Bearing Hunter had the shack, but you mostly had free space. You don't really have that. You don't really have that this time. See what I mean? Hits harder. And we did a good chunk of damage to it. Really? It pointed up at that exact moment? That's right, breathe deep the poison. I'll have you know my favorite poison class in World of Warcraft was an assassination rogue. I could do this all day, Cavalry. All day. And all night long, too. I think we'll be able to switch to Madness at this point. or Flame of Frenzy can be an awful spell in this fight. Nice follow-up. Well, well, well. And our reward was actually something pretty powerful. The Ice Spear. Let's look and review our new find, shall we? This is probably one of the better Ash of Wars that are out there, in my opinion. And I think this is even possible on staves. Might be. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. Ice Spear, skill of the warrior who served Lunar Princess Rani. See, spelled right here. Spin armament to release cold magic, then channel it into a piercing spear of ice. Usable on polearms capable of thrusting and twin blades. What an awesome spell it is. I do not know if... Ah, yes. Okay, this is one. I wasn't quite sure if the particle effect from poison was like a... Get away from that. Was a... You know, a hidden... or invisible tearstone or scarab or not. Basically. I wasn't sure what that was. Good to know that wasn't the case. Alright. Next thing we're gonna do is, let's see, I think it's 25k to level up. That's inventory 23k. We might be able to get enough if we go back and pass time again. And we can check out whether or not the description for Ice Spear is still accurate. Might as well talk to Hugh then. We can sell her stuff all at the same time. In Elden Ring, you learn pretty quickly to,
Well, I took you no matter. Lay out your arms.
you learn pretty quickly to try to, like, optimize your trips as best as you can. Nope. Okay. It's just Gravitas, and Quick Step. Oh well. I thought Ice Spear could be used on staves. I guess not. That should be a really fun suggestion, by the way. Ice Spear on specifically staves? Awesome. And I didn't even do the other thing I was looking to do. Just sell. That happens all the time. You go to optimize your trip,
No matter.
and then by the time you're done doing the first action, you totally forget to do the second one. Isn't that crazy how that works? It's human memory for you. Let's see if we have enough off of these items. I could sell twigs if I need to. No, I'm afraid not. Unfortunate. Although maybe something in weapons will show up. Probably not, but worth a look. Absolutely not. Never mind. What about if we sell some crafting materials? Maybe if we keep going with this just a little more. Selling your crafting material. Welcome back, Alex. Hopefully you enjoyed your show with your mom. I know you had mentioned that when you left. We cleared a nighttime boss while you were gone. He wasn't too difficult. We have the tools to take them out pretty regularly now. It's just how long the fights take more than anything. Okay, we have our mental stats where we want them. So let's boost Arcane then. And it looks like there weren't too many dropped frames. It was a nice, interesting series. It combines fiction with history. Yeah, I try to remind my folks of that, because they do like to watch it. As long as they know it's fiction, it's fine. If they start saying, well, these are how the Scotsman really spoke, or this is what really happened back then. Some of it definitely is a straight rip from history, but a lot of it is more like inspired. If you're not careful, you can pull off some pretty serious faux pas in public with it. I've seen people use the Da Vinci Code or the spiritual successor, Angels and Demons, to talk about culture, and that's not at all. Like, I should say not at all. Again, a lot of stuff in there can be straight rips from history, but without doing the research, and you're just deciding to take the video at face value, you're not going to know if it's telling you the truth or spinning a lie. Both can be entertaining, but only the truth is useful in contexts beyond its own. The lie, I guess, is just as useful, but it's way more damaging. In terms of what's going to happen next, if you notice, our turtley friend is missing. He's not here. Yeah, there's a good reason for that. That's because the bell-bearing hunter is here, and we need to take him out if we want to get Muriel back. Once the fight starts, I really won't be able to comment, because the first bell-bearing hunter was a handful. Second one has more defenses, and is going to be more of a handful. You guys will see what I mean in just a moment. Yeah, he's awful, in my opinion. Yeah, awful. There's not really a super safe approach on this boss. And he can chew through your he can chew through your flasks and your defenses like they're hot butter. Really, about the only thing you can do is just take your time with him. Try not to let him get your goat, because he gets mine all the time. The bell-bearing hunter is like a personal weakness of mine. And you even lose a flask on the way here because of these silly knights. Ah, yes, very awful. And we are all out of rune arcs, so we can't even use the spell, 2 of the spells we have prepared, because of just how prolific, how dangerous the bell-bearing hunter is. Really, poison is not a good choice for this fight. You really want magic. I also am not sure why I didn't just take the rest site, all things considered, but BT dubs, K dub shrug, I don't know. I have to think. Typically, when I do this fight, I'm kind of forced to use archery, and I'm kind of forced to upgrade a bow at this juncture. That's probably what I'm going to do, if I'm being completely honest with you. We should head back. Because a neat little fact about the bell-bearing hunters is that they're all vulnerable to piercing damage. They take about 10 to 15% more. In fact, if we look at our lovely little chart, and I'll link the chart in the chat, there's a spreadsheet on it, and the boss we're looking for on here is the Bell-Bearing Hunter, the non-Elmer copy. And they take 10% more from Pierce and 15% more from Lightning. And they are vulnerable, or not vulnerable, but they're neutral to Poison, Scarlet Rot, and Sleep. And they don't have an enemy type we can properly take advantage of. So it really is... It really is just going to be a straight up, we upgrade a bow. And we make sure we have the appropriate, status-inducing arrow. And go from there. Can't even bleed him out. He's resistant to it. They could probably stack a good chunk of bleed on him, but we'll need to figure out, you know, what's going to be important. I think what we want to do is induce status. Specifically poison. And we're not going to be able to get very far, as we've upgraded a staff already, but, you know, a +3 isn't terrible. Could be worse. Let's take a look at what we have. So in terms of status, we have Rainbow Stone Arrow, which, if we could summon Spirit Ashes, we could actually use them. We have Blood Loss Arrows. We have Poison Arrows. We have Fire Arrows and Magic Arrows. We don't really have the kind we're looking for, however. So instead, what we're probably going to do is just try to carry Blood and Poison Arrows into this fight, and we're going to see a fortune change. The first in a good while. And that fortune is going to be the Fortune of the Ranger. Oh, did I have Fortune of the... I had Fortune of the Wizard checkmarked, which was really weird. No wonder that was happening. Even so, we've already made the switch. We have to junk our shield for worse one. That probably just means we get rid of the shield here. And we change out some talismans. Okay, specifically one talisman, but better than nothing. Fortunes are what the class system should have been in base Elden Ring. So, I don't know how familiar you are with the Soulsborne franchise in general. I think we've discussed it before. But you know how in, like, Dark Souls, you have several different stat loadouts to choose from, and they contain different starting gear depending on what you select. So, for example, in Elden Ring, if you choose the Samurai class, you get a katana, a longbow, and the Samurai gear. But it doesn't do anything beyond you get gear and you get stats to use that gear, so that you're not like doing reduced damage with it. That's all you get. Fortunes are like, well, what if the classes actually did something apart from here's your gear, here's your stats, have fun. The fortunes are supposed to reward specific playstyles. So we'll divine the fortunes, because it doesn't matter what menu you see them in. They have the same descriptions either way. Let's look at the one we're going to bring into this fight. The Fortune of the Ranger. Common fortunes revealed through the Oracle Effigy. Fortunes have 5 or 4 basic effects broken down. They almost always increase a stat of some kind. Usually 2, sometimes 3, or even 4. But the more stats they increase, the less they're increased by. This one increases dexterity and endurance, so stamina and the amount of stamina you have, the equip load you have, and your proficiency with using advanced weapons, because that's what it says in Elden Ring. It's your ability to use bows. Increases status effect resistances. increases item discovery, increases the duration of buffs. All fortunes also have an effect similar to this, where it's like, on top of increasing stats, it increases some basic parameters about you. So like wizard decreases sorcery costs, and increases damage of various things you do. Ranger has a second effect before it has one of those. Third effect is almost always the unique effect. Almost always. Yes, these only exist in Elden Ring Reforged. It's the thing that sets the mod apart from anything else. Because we do have mods out there that have ripped the deflect and the spot dodge mechanic already. So the fortunes are the thing that really let you know Reforged is what you have. In our case, bow range and projectile damage is awesome. Chef's kiss. All fortunes also come with what we call a trade-off effect and what we call a straight debuff effect. These are very powerful things. Usually in Elden Ring or in any Soulsborne type game, objects and gear only buff one kind of thing at a time. So for example, the Albrecht set in Elden Ring buffs aberrant sorceries specifically, and that's all it does. Fortunes kind of fly in the face of that game design, which is fine, but that's what truly makes them unique. And they're not a thing you equip either. They're not a talisman, they aren't a piece of gear. You toggle it on, and that's what you have. Which is really cool, in my opinion. It really allows you to sort of define the game in terms you want to play. So if you know you're never going to use, I don't know, let's say we're never going to be a strength build, ever. Not even in your wildest dreams, even if you hit level cap, you'll just hold the runes rather than level up strength, right? You can pick a fortune that specifically says, I don't care about these things. Here's a playstyle that you would probably like since you're avoiding strength. Like Ranger or Artificer is the other one. Artificer is crossbows, I believe. It's really quite novel. I like the fortune system. Kernifer and the community at large that has helped create and shape these fortunes really hit the nail on the head. They really made their mark. It's truly unique, one of a kind. And those are just the common fortunes that we have access to. We're also discussing how to make rare fortunes, or fortunes that you unlock not by being able to divine them immediately at a rest site, but things that are unlocked. One such fortune we're going to get right here. When we defeat this boss, we're actually going to get one. And it's going to be super cool when it happens. We just have to, fight fight the boss first. Alright, now we can hopefully bleed him out. I see the poison has worn off. Thank you. Oi, oi, oi. So our reward, thank you very much. Our reward is the Meat Peddler's Bell Bearing. That is baseline ER. You always get this when you kill the Bell Bearing Hunter. Apropos. And the unique item that we don't have to pay for, as fast as shooting arrows, that is the weapon skill Barrage. Oh, that might have been a joke. Yeah, he can shoot them pretty fast. Barrage is pretty good. I believe Carnifer touched it up, so it's a tad bit faster. Barrage was fast before, but it is definitely faster now. I like it. I don't like popping into archery builds super often, but they are a tool in our toolbox. We shouldn't just ignore them. Just because we're a caster, we do have the dex to make it work. And when we get our stats up to a certain point, it'll actually be a lot better to start leveling dexterity. So we'll be able to do archery reasonably well. But we have to focus it. We can't just, we can't lob arrows willy-nilly. We have to come in with a plan. And in the Bell-Bearing Hunter's case, that plan is load them up with poison, bleed them out, and then use arrows to get the rest. As a caster, is there a spell you really want? In terms of the ones that are already in Elden Ring, that's a good question. I want to say the ones that I really want are like the magma spells, specifically the magma sorceries. Or more lightning incantations in general. Mainly because I've either have never received those spells before, or I just happen to like that sort of thing in a Soulsborne title. Lightning is usually a pretty good element. It's it's statistically been one of the stronger choices in terms of damage types, and magma sounds like something you get from the Volcano Manor. Yep, actually obtained. Headed there eventually, but we got a long way to go first. We gotta traipse through Caelid. We have to traipse through Liurnia. We have to kill the shard bearers in both those locations. We have to go underground. We have several quest lines that we kind of need to touch on before even thinking. Drop frames. Thanks for letting me know. To sort of synthesize that point in a single sentence, we won't be getting magma sorceries for a long time. We have a lot of things we have to do first. But I do want to get them. I hate that frames dropped right there. I kind of had a whole diatribe about it, but it can't be helped. I suppose a good place to stop, it is end of stream already, as I do want to show specifically what this fortune is I've actually not seen it myself. I've read about it, but I haven't seen it before. I think we can just select this already. Yeah, we sure can. Alright, let's take a look at it. Rare fortune found in the lands between. Increases intelligence and faith. Increases memory slots. Increases the damage of academy sorceries and fundamentalist incantations. Casting a sorcery increases the damage and decreases the FP cost of incantations for a short duration. And the same is true for incantations with sorceries. Chaining 6 boosted spells together will reduce the FP cost of the next cast spell to 0. Decreases strength and dexterity. Increases skill and consumable FP costs. So, I think at the beginning of the series, we kind of carried around sorceries and incantations. If we want to do that again, this is the fortune that will let us do this. But the trick with this is that we can't just cast. We get the most out of this fortune when we alternate between spells. So the Fortune of the Houses doesn't actually reward the toolbox style that I have, where statuses are pretty much the norm. It rewards you for carrying a lot of direct damaging spells. So that's fine. It's a fine fortune. We're gonna play test with it Sunday, as Friday is supposed to be a blasphemous stream, but that is neither here nor there. I want to thank you guys so much for stopping by and conversating with me, keeping me company. I appreciate it. I'm sorry for the dropped frames. It kind of can't be helped. I still have to figure out I have to figure out how I'm gonna get through the blasphemous stream, in quotes, right? It's referring to the game, of course, but yeah, it's a real word, so I can't say I'm surprised if people, go funny haha at it. Really, I can't blame them. We're gonna find someone to give our attention for a little bit. There's a good chunk of people on today. Let's see. I haven't visited Tony in a while. Tony is a good friend of mine. His name is Tony One Kenobi, with weird spelling. I do think he could probably file for a change in username and maybe would actually get it. But yeah, he's an old friend of mine, and I've been meaning to pay him a visit. He's long overdue. if you guys like this content, please leave me a follow if you haven't done so. You know, hit that bell. Make sure you get notifications. Lets me know that you like the content and I can keep doing it. Although I like Elden Ring enough that I'd probably do it even if no one liked the content. I like the game that much. If you'd like to get in touch with me directly, Twitter is the best place for that. I do have a link about that, or a link to that in the About Me section. I do have a Discord. I share that with other people. So if you don't mind sharing this with a whole community and not just us, it should be labeled Ob10 Network in the About Me page. Even if you're not a fan, Souls games usually are entertaining to watch. I can't wait. I agree with you. I can't wait until I get to do this as a hitless challenge. Because I've already decided that that's what I'm going to do, is even after Elden Ring is over and I've showcased everything, I want to do this as a challenge. Using this mod, I like it that much. And I think people like goal-driven streams more than anything. More than just, here's a showcase of great content. Here's someone with an active goal in that same content. Like a real, tangible goal. Other than that, I think I'll take a break from the shilling today. I still have to figure out ads and stuff. I do apologize about pre-roll ads or anything of the sort. I can't say I'm practiced and all of that, but I will figure it out. Friday will be some Blasphemous, some more Metroidvania platforming goodness. And then we'll resume this on... Oh, I see. We'll actually need to change who we're hosting, because Tony just, Tony stopped stream. That's right. I forget that, he streams at the same time slots I do now. So we're actually going to bring it on over to Gino Machino. If you guys like relaxing streams, you'll like his. I promise. He's doing, I want to say, yeah, he's doing Elden Ring with fists only. So if you like challenge runs or meme runs, you'll like this as well. Yeah, I think I've shilled enough for today. I'm CoinStamp180, and this has been another episode of Elden Ring Reforged. And with that, I will see you guys on Friday. Take care, and bye-bye.